following is a production of the University of Minnesota.
Seven score and 10 years ago, we were engaged in a great civil war, testing whether our nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all people are created equal, could long endure. It was in that year of struggle, 1862, that I, Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States, signed the Morrill Act, legislation that extended higher education's promise to the children of our working families. The right to rise, that is what makes the American experiment so exceptional, I said at the time. The Morrill Act let citizens in every state study agriculture, military science, mechanical arts, and the humanities. It gave life to land-grant colleges and universities with research and education directly engaged with the needs of our states, our nation, and our world. And so, it is with firm faith in the mission of our great land-grant universities, I am proud to celebrate the founding act that created them. It gives me great pleasure to introduce another 16th President, Erik W. Kaler, the 16th President of the University of Minnesota.
Thank you, President Lincoln, for taking time out of your busy schedule to honor us. And thank you for all of you gathered here with us, especially all of our university campers, future Gophers, I hope for sure. And our incoming students and visitors, welcome. This is a rare and coincidental occasion. As Abe noted, may I call you Abe? Yes. Thank you. We're both 16th presidents, but there are two other coincidences. One, he has a beard, I have a beard. Two, he's on the $5 bill, I have a $5 bill. What a coincidence today. More seriously, I'm glad to celebrate this sesquicentennial of the Morrill Act. Amid a very dark time in our nation's history, you, President Lincoln, had the foresight to sign a marvelous piece of legislation ensuring the future of public higher education. It was a law dedicated to the proposition that higher education should be accessible to all those worthy, and that land-grant institutions should emphasize agriculture, the mechanical arts, and a liberal education. It is a law that has had a sweeping impact on American higher education and so on the nation itself. Since you placed your signature on the Morrill Act, land-grant universities like ours have evolved. And in your time, President Lincoln, agriculture meant feeding Minnesota. Today it means feeding the world and protecting the planet's food supply from disease and determined terrorists. And our federally funded National Center for Food Protection and Defense does just that. The mechanical arts used to mean basic engineering. Today, the field includes such disciplines as biochemical engineering and nanotechnology, disciplines that produce new products, new companies, and new jobs. And the liberal arts continue to produce students with great critical thinking skills and strong communication abilities, preparing them to be engaged citizens, creative artists, wonderful scholars, and leaders of companies, nonprofit, and government. What was once rural is now much more urban. What was once national is now global. You signed the law, Mr. President, and it's my honor to lead a university that embraces and carries on the spirit of that great act. And I know you knew Senator Justin Morrill, after whom this act is named. But the third coincidence, Mr. President, which you may not know, is this. Senator Morrill's great-grandnephew is a student on our Twin Cities campus. And Prescott Morrill, a graduate of our UMD campus and a master's student in our College of Design on the Twin Cities campus, is here today. So Prescott, please wave so we can acknowledge your great-great-granduncle. So now we move forward towards the next 150 years of our land-grant mission. We move forward as one of the few institutions in the world with the scope, the span of skills, and the talent needed to tackle Minnesota's and the world's most pressing problems. We move forward, as you did, Mr. President, for the common good and for the public good. And now, President Lincoln, would you please join and read a proclamation from Governor Mark Dayton?
Whereas 150 years ago this July, President Abraham Lincoln signed into law landmark legislation known as the Morrill Act of 1862, granting federal lands to the states for the purpose of funding public colleges and universities. And whereas the Morrill Act of 1862 expanded higher education beyond a privileged few and provided the ordinary citizens the opportunity to pursue a broad, liberal education that encouraged intellectual curiosity, scholarship, and service to community. And whereas the original land-grant institutions, the University of Minnesota among them, laid the groundwork for public research universities nationwide and their ongoing mission of learning, discovery, and commitment to the common good of the public. And whereas the University of Minnesota has, from its earliest days when it provided a practical education to the state's agricultural and industrial workers, built a legacy of discovery, research, collaboration, and innovation that has improved the lives of Minnesotans. And whereas the University of Minnesota today continues its mission to provide students with a liberal, research-based education that invests not only in their personal and academic promise, but in their relationship to Minnesota and their potential as future business, civic, cultural, and education leaders. And whereas the 150th anniversary of the Morrill Act affords the opportunity to celebrate the University of Minnesota's legacy as the state's only public land-grant research university, and to reaffirm its mission of promoting access to higher education and advancing knowledge for the benefit of the state of Minnesota, the nation, and the world. Now, Governor Mark Dayton does hereby proclaim July 20th, 2012 as the University of Minnesota Sesquicentennial Day. Thank you.
Thank you. And now, Mr. President, the most critical question of the day. Do you prefer chocolate or vanilla?
Chocolate.
The answer is chocolate, and the ice cream social is available. Thank you all for joining us today.